Hi and welcome back to the Nook. Today we're gonna be doing a day in my life vlog. Nowadays the COVID cases in Singapore have been really going very up, so I have been a little bit hesitant in going out. But if it's just to somewhere nearby, maybe I'll do that. Yeah. But before I do that, I am currently planning a couple of things. I know I've been doing a lot of these vlog videos lately. I think I really haven't had the mind space to really do a lot of the book heavy content. But a lot of you seem to like the vlogs anyway, and I do want to get better at vlogging my day. I think my first few attempts were really bad. It was either I was not talking at all or I was just talking and not doing enough. Currently today, I'm going to try to take notes for 3 books that I'm going to use in my video on post-growth living. I mean, obviously this is one of them. Post-Growth Living for an Alternative Hedonism by Kate Soper. So, story about this book. I actually got this book like 2 years back in my Verso haul, but I just didn't understand the book at all. I just didn't know how to appreciate it. But now that I've read so many stuff on work and on, general stuff about the economy and about the climate crisis and consumerism and things like that, I started to understand more of the ways to break down the idea of growth, but I didn't know enough of the ways that we could proceed past growth. And all the books that really helped with that was The Day the World Stopped Shopping by J.B. McKinnon, if I'm not wrong. That was a really good journalistic look into how people around the world have already started to adopt post-growth methods and ways of life. But this one is a bit more of a theoretical take, and kind of inquires more into the mindsets that we need to have, especially for people that live in the global north, people who have been living in places historically that have been a lot more developed or a lot more energy consumption heavy. In case you're wondering why my hand is stained, that's because I was helping my mom dye her roots. It's just Asian household things. I will be citing less is more again, and I do want to cite more of forward-looking books. So that would be books by Donna J. Haraway as well as Anna Singh. I want to tie all of that together and hopefully be able to launch a book club at the end of that video. So if you all have been waiting for a book club, I am trying my best. And that reminds me, I am currently trying to learn how to use Discord. I am still trying to figure out how to draft a rules page that is good enough, and I'm also figuring out how I should organize the text channels, maybe by the month. And the major reason why I want to call the book club the Problem Book Club is mostly because of this memoir, Warmth, Coming of Age at the End of Our World by Daniel Sherrell. I really, really, really enjoy it, but obviously it has a pretty specific perspective of a highly educated white middle class male who does climate activism, is primarily concerned with things like protests and policy changes and organizing in that manner. So it is a very privileged background, but I really, really appreciate how Sherrell was able to speak from that perspective in a way that wasn't bragging. I think I also occupy a similar position in that I am based in a rather privileged position, and that a lot of the stuff that I do is not directly facing the issues I want to face, and that kind of guilt but also the sense of tension and conflict is really beautifully captured in this memoir. Daniel Sherrell doesn't actually address anything about climate change. He doesn't actually address climate change as climate change. It kind of intersects so many different things like social justice, environmental justice, intersects all sorts of understandings of our economy and the way that we see time, the way we see our existence as humans. That is the primary problem, and it cannot just be captured by the 2 words, the climate crisis. So many times when people still think about the climate crisis, people still think it is the domain of environmentalists, or it's the domain of people who are policymakers and things like that. But the fact is that we all have a stake in this, and I myself don't see myself necessarily as an environmental activist. I just see myself as someone who reads a lot of books and sees that the climate crisis is an area that we as book lovers should be concerned about, and that if we are actually lovers of knowledge and lovers of experiences and humankind, then it would be natural that we would care about the climate crisis. So that's a perspective that I'm taking, not because I feel like the environment is my one and only passion. I don't really think so. Also, another thing I've been working on is my newsletter. So I kind of feel like my content is evolving a little bit. Like, I might not do as much social media stuff. I might just kind of pivot to the book club and the newsletter, which are more static things and things that are not so driven by algorithms. The act of writing in itself is like a very, very intentional piecing together of words, and reconstructing reality, like really trying to translate things into words, rather than it's more like an act of translation rather than an act of creation. So I kind of feel that because a lot of my creative pursuits are very spontaneous and very unscripted, whereas writing itself is the opposite of unscripted. It is scripting, re-scripting, re-editing, polishing before it's being presented. So that's kind of like the opposite of my creative process. We'll see whether my newsletter ever comes to see the light of day. If you have any suggestions or feedback on where to host my newsletter, I am considering Substack because I want it to be accessible for everyone, but I also want to have like a paid option so that at least I know that I can sustain the writing in some way. Yeah, this is just another sit down talk vlog video. I don't know why I thought this would be different, but let's go and do something different today. I think I'm gonna continue walking and find a sheltered place to chill for a while before we head back. Yeah. She's obviously intrigued, but maybe she'll just stay in her box. I should have thought about the weather a bit more. Hey. Wow, what's all this? She's been in her bag for the past 15 minutes. There was a little cute girl that came to say hi to her, but they had a puppy, so I think she was a bit afraid of the puppy, so she didn't come out. Come on, you wanna come out? It's okay if you want to stay in your box forever. Hi, baby. Hi. Oh. You doing? Yeah. Okay, at this point, Asian P really doesn't want to come out, so I think I will have to bring her home. Like, she's really not interested. So yeah, the memoir by Sherrell. Yeah, I finished it pretty quickly, and I think it does articulate a lot of the feelings I have around the climate crisis and how much I've changed like over the past 2 years, like how it started from a place of like being so strict on myself, the very kind of self-individualistic approach to the whole problem, and then slowly understanding that it was very structural, and then feeling hopeless about the whole structural thing, because what can I as an individual do, especially in a system that really disempowered its citizens. And I have been learning so much about like mindset shifts and really unlearning and deschooling and decolonizing and decapitalizing on things, and it feels so like internal that I really struggle to see what the whole point of everything is. Like, what's the point of unlearning capitalism if I'm still like very much bound to the system, right? And I was just thinking about the book How to Be an Anticapitalist by Erik, Olin, Wright, I think, and he writes about how there are many different approaches to deconstructing anti-capitalism, and you could either be in the system and gradually change it, which is what most people do, or you could be like a radical and try to revolutionize everything, but that has the risk of not having a very clear execution, or it might negatively impact people in such a long-standing way that you didn't intend. So revolution in itself is not always the answer, like radical revolution. There's like the people that live outside the system, that you could try and build your entirely new system outside, but that is also limited in its reach, because you are like, these utopias function precisely because they are in opposition of the current system. Like you can't like, these perfect systems only exist as long as there is something that it is opposing, and that instead kind of reinforces the main system, so that, you know, that's like farmer communes that still have to rely on current systems to thrive and everything. And as much as these systems thrive outside, it has no impact really on the actual dominant system, unless everyone does it, right? At the end of the book, the author argues that we all have to have a stake in all these different methods. Basically, all of us have to do what we're good at. If you're really good at complaining, then trying to push for more changes within the system might work for you. Or if you're someone that's really visionary, maybe creating new systems outside and making that as permeable to the people inside the system would be great for you. And I wonder like where I am, because I think it's really easy for people to be critical and to deconstruct the system without offering viable solutions, and I really don't like that, because yeah, I mean, it sucks, right? I mean, what's the point of deconstructing everything if you don't have anything to offer in return? People who only spend their time deconstructing stuff can afford to do so because they can live somewhat without the structure and they can afford to do that. But so many people can't, because the structure literally makes people dependent on it, you know. Yeah. So we're walking home because I think Asian P is tired. Now that I am freshly showered, it's like such a great vibe to be showering in the middle of the day. Also, I just really wanted to share a video, How Disney Commodifies Culture, Southeast Asians Roast Raya and the Last Dragon, and it's published by this YouTuber called Sinran J. Zhao. It's a whole entire like 2-hour long thing, which I already watched like the first part, so I'm gonna be spending the time watching the second part.
Indonesian artist Grizz. Then later in its more traditional shadow.
While Myanmar has jade, usually the economy would rely on bartering. Money would be in the form of copper, silver, and gold used by nobilities instead of civilians.
I've not watched Raya, and I'm usually a bit wary of watching commentary videos before actually watching the thing. But in this case, like, I have no access to Raya because it's a premium thing, right? Like on Disney or something. I think it's so amazing that there are all these different Southeast Asians that have come together to do these presentations. And I remember seeing a comment that said that if people were able to get all this information out, like, for free, or that they were able to get all of this presented so well in terms of diversity and representation, then the Disney team has no excuse in the way that they chose to present things in a certain way. I think this is great for representation, like that the issue of minority representation in American media, and broadly, I guess, like the global North media, Western media. Okay, they're not all the same thing, but mostly how Western media showcases minority cultures. And so many of you are from that region, and many of you are of minority identities, and that being like Asian American is different from being Asian. And I hope more people understand that, because every time on BookTube, everyone will be talking about minority representation. They only talk about authors who are American, or like at least grew up not in their country of ethnic origin, if that makes sense. So even the most popular books written by Singaporeans are not necessarily by Singaporeans who were born and raised here. Like even Crazy Rich Asians was written by someone that was born and grew up overseas. But a lot of people took that as a fairly accurate representation of Singapore. For you all that have never really seen much about Southeast Asia, I really highly encourage you to check out this video and to really work on that distinction between minority representation in your own culture and then like the diasporic representation, and then the actual ethnic groups in their own respective countries and their own respective cultures, how that is different from diasporic communities, because it's all really different and you shouldn't conflate them together necessarily. I'm gonna be cooking dinner, probably some kind of like lemon garlic vegetable stir fry. Nice. Yeah, I could have roasted the carrot more.
Spicy, chili padi.
Yeah. So it is officially evening. I'm always looking out for good novels and good works, written works by Singaporeans. It doesn't have to be set in Singapore. I don't think that's like a limitation that needs to happen. So far, I really enjoy this story. Yeah, I think I might be able to finish this tonight, actually. I have about like this much left. And then I might just be flipping through this. If you work in marketing or you work in any sort of creative role that requires marketing to some extent, really give this a try. I think it's one of the most original takes on being creative in this digital world. To be creative in a commercial sense is basically to be a marketer in different areas. 3 steps to living with ourselves. Deconstruct the denial that creative work is not marketing. Marketing is an icky, archaic sounding word, but to deny it may be doing more harm than good to our precarious situation. Marketing work is acknowledged as deserving fair pay, whereas creative work is considered less deserving. Differentiate selling out from solidarity. We are all in the same boat. Whether outright brand strategists at ad agencies or freelance illustrators for cultural institutions. Forge solidarity and counter the competitiveness ingrained in creative labor. 3. disbelieve the myth that creativity at work leaves no space for radicality. Infusing our output with critical thinking, new visions, and expansive transgressions opens up many more possibilities than it closes down. Scan for places where potency lies, get together, and start looking beyond the present.